I will speak about the BMS Progress Pro, about the news. Of course, I will not be able to tell you everything. There are other colleagues who will speak about that as well. The one, by the way, going right after mine, Arseny, also spoke about this. He spoke about the multi-master, and it was a great presentation. I will touch upon some general things and provide some examples on the new elements of Postgres Pro DBMS, because a lot is being done, a lot is being developed. So let's go. So what's new? So those who don't understand what is Postgres Pro, I will explain. Postgres has a lot of forks. So the community policy encourages creation of forks. They're useful to develop Postgres SQL and to develop the community, and a lot of companies follow that path. Basically, half of big companies who develop Postgres have their own commercial forks, and they are sometimes different from open source. There are companies who create specialized forks, and we have been working on our own forks, but at the same time we continue interacting with the community and with the open source. So where does it come from? In 2015, when we created Postgres Professional, we wanted to work with open source only, and we didn't even think about having forks. But our experience with working with customers made us conclude that customers sometimes need functions and features. If we create a lot of patches and each customer gets his or her own pack of patches, we have a lot of uncontrolled versions of Postgres installed. And if that customer comes to you and says something is not working, it is hard to understand what exactly is not working. So any software developer comes to an idea that it is necessary not just to create a different version for different customers, but to create a set of releases. So that's why we moved to our own cycle of releases and our own forks. So even in the first year of our company, we created Postgres Pro standard, which had a set of patches, and then we created Postgres Pro Enterprise, the option that was expected to be used in the open source because it will be used for development of major changes. We wanted to give it to the community, but it was hard to do it technically, and it is sometimes hard to do it for other reasons, apart from technology reasons. Support of 1S, for example, or support of functions of certification of our regulators, certification authorities, might not be interesting to the rest of the community. But our Russian customers are interested in this, they need it. So it happens so that we have this fail-safe system with open source, Postgres Pro Standard, and Postgres Pro Enterprise, which is moving forward and is installed with major customers. Last year, we started moving towards the next generation of the databases. We called them Adaptive Cloud, which can adapt to various loads or may require various loads. When this project is implemented, it requires less management and administration, less management and control. So we are working on this Postgres Pro Adaptive Cloud to make it more available to operate in the cloud environment, to be more scalable, and to have other features. What is Postgres Pro standard features? This is the right set of tools for our users, a useful set of extensions. For example, for 1S ERP system, which is popular in Russia, it also offers extensions and patches which are not available in the open source Postgres. They are fully or partially open source, but these are our own developments. ptrack is a new thing that helps us create incremental backup by tracking changes between regular backups. And we have developed tools for backup copying. It knows how to work with ptrack and perform incremental backup. Another set is tools for monitoring, pgpro stats and pgpro power. pgpro stats is a tool that remembers the plan of queries and can move along the plan. pgpro power is similar to Oracle AVN. So this is what can record snapshots. And as a result, we receive a history of loads. I think we'll have a separate presentation dedicated to it, so I will not dwell on it too long. We'll move on. Enterprise, Postgres Pro Enterprise, is a deeper version of Postgres, and one of the fundamental things that it has is 64-bit XID. When Postgres Pro Enterprise was put together, we met with the customers who had wraparound at the operating base. It was very painful and hard, and we thought that for the enterprise application, it was necessary to create the 64-bit XID. Well, the wraparound has improved over time, but still, 46-bit XID is important. It helps you avoid a lot of issues and headaches. Multi-master. We've had an interesting presentation made by Arseny this morning. Arseny spoke about a lot of subtleties of multi-master. I should mention that the current version of Enterprise that will be released this month, multi-master has been seriously redeveloped and advanced. It has become much more reliable, and it offers better performance. Another important feature is compression. I must mention this because in some cases it reduces the scope of the database in some cases. Anton Doroshkevich will speak about this and provide examples about data compression, how data is compressed several times, and it is performed better than at Microsoft SQL Server. There is a lot of criticism. When you move from Microsoft to Postgres, you may have some issues, but as far as compression is concerned, compression is really good, so you will hear this report later. So the new version don't have anything new in terms of compression. We only checked a couple of bugs, and that's all. What about the rest of the features? We've had some internal optimizations that we've done that may be related to the sizes of data structures, related to blockings. This is what we see in our customers, and we just make changes in the minor versions for Postgres to be able to handle high loads. Auto-prepare is an interesting feature. It is helpful when your software cannot handle all the queries, and for that there is shared cache, shared prepared statements cache, operating on the part of the server, a very useful thing. And there were customers who were looking forward to it, so there it is, we have it. A relatively new thing that we have is built-in connection pooler, with some constraints, of course, but it may be helpful, faster than PG bounces in some cases, and there'll be an article on Hubble dedicated to it in a couple of months. You'll be able to read about built-in connection pooler. The next thing is machine learning based on adaptive query optimization, AQO, and we set high hopes on it. We've been researching this issue for several years, and the next version will include AQO, and we know how we're going to develop it further in the future. One more new thing, and we did not have this in the past, is seamless minor updates. This gives you an ability to update the database without stopping it, although it is not possible all the time in every case. This should not be in principle, because the shared memory structures which were provided in the previous minor updates. Well, we cannot really guarantee it 100%. If the next minor version doesn't make any changes, doesn't change the data format, then this will work. Seamless minor updates will work. It will tell you that in a given minor update, you can apply this. If you don't use this and that, you can apply seamless minor update. Moving on, there will be a report on seamless minor updates and on AQO. What are we going to develop this year in 2021, and what is in progress? Number one priority is sharding. Dmitry Ursegov will speak about sharding at this conference. So the approach is that when we do sharding on the basis of regular Postgres, such as replication, FDV, and partitioning, we can easily imagine that if partitions are located on remote servers, partitioning turns into sharding. But it isn't that simple. To make this work fast and provide scalability and performance, ability to work with a big database quickly, you need to work hard. And this is what the team of Dmitry Ursegov is doing. It is trying hard, and we are now releasing sharding in the experimental mode. However, everyone can test it. This is not part of enterprise solution. It's a standalone assembly of Postgres. But we're doing more research to that regard. It may turn out that our approach is simply a way to say no to RDV, for example, and we may replace some elements with the specially developed elements. So catch-up replica is something that enhances reliability. PG Pro Backup, I mentioned this. This is a means for backup copying. We've been doing this for quite a long time. And this year, we're going to learn how to store reserved copies on various servers.
It will be very useful, and it will allow us to easily apply it when it's necessary to back up a lot of servers. And it's not convenient to have a lot of data warehouses for backups. It's more convenient to have one cloud storage. Wall circular buffer is a new feature. I will describe it on the following slides. It increases the reliability of high-performance system with replication. AQO, we continue developing it, and there are also works devoted to JSON performance improvements. This is a very good optimization, a very beautiful one, and in a number of practical cases, such optimizations allow us to increase performance of JSON. Of course, it cannot be applied for everything, but in cases when in JSON there are small data and large data, I mean that there are metadata. For example, you store a large text in JSON and a description to this text, then it will be easier to work with this test. The work will speed up several times, probably even 10 times faster. We are planning to finish SQL JSON in accordance with 2016 standard. We will make JSON table functional.
Значит, мы работаем над темой TDE, то есть Transparent Data Encryption.
We are developing TDE, Transparent Data Encryption.
Многие банки это хотят, и вот мы нашли технологического партнера, вместе с
Many
которым...
banks want to have it, and we have found a technological partner, together with which we can develop it. And our community is developing it as well, so it's possible that we will have 2 or 1.5 versions of TDE. And we are also actively developing a convenient environment for Kubernetes setup. Now I'd like to say a few specific things. So what is circular wall buffer? Normally on master, working with wall looks as follows. Wall writer takes brackets from the memory and puts them on the disk, and wall sender sends them to replica. But it turns out that an error can occur on the disk or in the memory. And it can happen that the wall will be distorted. In Oracle, it's possible to write wall twice. Of course, it slows down the process. So we decided that we do not want to slow it down because it is done for high-performance systems and such errors can be found fast. We do not want to write the second copy of wall. That's why we developed the following approach. We develop circular wall buffer in the memory with wall brackets. They are recorded continuously, but they are used if it wasn't possible to read it from the disk. So, if we read a wrong CRC from the disk, this is a fault. It means that we need to throw away this disk and this server. But if it's not possible to stop the system, it can function for some time until they bring the disk and switch to the replica. So this algorithm works the way you can see it in the right part of the screen. So if CRC was wrong, we should try reading it from circular buffer. If the circular buffer was exhausted, it means that we were waiting for too long before sending the wall. In that case, it will not function. But probably I didn't tell you about one feature. This is catch-up replica. This is the next thing. When you need to restore a replica because of wall loss, imagine that you are having replication but something went wrong. Due to some reason, the replica was suspended, or during the transfer of wall segment, a fault occurred and wall segment is defected and you cannot continue replication. In that case, normally, you should just reload the replica from the master as a whole. It can be quite big and it can take a long time. That's not good. That's why a system was developed. Using this system, it's possible to reload this replica to refresh it on the basis of reading changes on master. This is quite similar to ptrack when we see what has changed, download it on the replica, and in that case replica becomes synchronous with the master much faster than if we reloaded it as a whole. This is catch-up replica. Now I'd like to speak about our long-term plans, what we're going to do in the future. So, I'd like to speak about 3 main areas, but it's difficult to select 3 of them, that's why I will speak about 5 of them, so that it will be easy for you to count them on your hand. This is scalability. First of all, it's sharding. But sharding is needed not just to learn to implement the scheme with cluster on the basis of FDV and partitioning, but we need it to make something that will increase performance, because all the elements that we are using now are quite slow. Manageability. This is something that clouds need first of all, and a cloud is a situation then there are a lot of bases and not enough admins. This is actually the world is now. The number of bases grow faster than the number of admins. That's why it's about different level manageability, monitoring, decision-making system, database configuration, ability to develop indices, partitioning, sharding, all of that should be automated in future. Another important aspect is the aspect of security, increasing reliability, and actually I spoke about 2 solutions that we developed for reliability, and all of that leads to the cloud. This is a happy person sitting on the cloud, and enjoying Postgres. Probably you can see an elephant on his laptop. So, this is what I wanted to tell you, and you can learn some details, asking questions, or listening to my colleagues from Postgres Professional. Thank you. Thank you, Ivan. You can see that you have a lot of thoughts, and it was quite difficult for you to speak about all of them within this brief time. So, the presentation was really interesting, and I would like to move on to questions. First of all, enterprise. Are you planning to open code? And here they're asking about scheduler and connection pooler. Well, speaking about opening code. Actually, we are continuously trying to give something to the community, and we will follow this way. Of course, we will not open everything due to various reasons. And speaking about connection pooler, we'll see. Well, probably, it's quite probable that we will open it for connection pooler, but most likely there will be another option of connection pooler that will be more advanced. Speaking about scheduler, it's quite probable that scheduler extension will become open. It has worked for a long time, it is quite good, and the community needs it, for sure. So, you can await it. Speaking about calculation and planning of statistics inside JSONB. Now JSONB is engaged in another thing that is also quite useful, so probably next year we will be able to do it. What else do we have? Are you planning to optimize working with transient tables? Yuri is asking that. Yuri, we had several approaches to the optimization of work with transient tables. Some of them were included in Enterprise. I don't remember which of them were included because I really hate transient tables. And we decided to postpone this issue. Not all our approaches were successful because they require a lot of changes in Postgres, and unfortunately, transient tables are made in a simple way in Postgres. They're quite similar to normal tables, and that's why it's difficult. And if we want all these transient tables to work appropriately with clusters and CMasters, it is related to even more constraints than we can afford. That's why now we will not do anything new for transient tables in the near future. Well, I guess that we will have time for another question, and after that we will continue talking in special chart and normal chart. Question. Are you planning to optimize structures of pgLite objects? If there are a lot of records with this data type, pg update can take a lot of time, just as pg dump. That's true. this problem exists. So, we're thinking about the extension that will be used instead of Pidgelight objects that will optimize all transactions with large objects. Pidgelight objects, well, many people are afraid of using them because there are some constraints, and they use bytes instead of them. So actually we've seen byte tier with hundreds of megabytes size. It happens, but we will follow a different way. Thank you, Yvonne. I would also like to thank our listeners for their questions. Now, you can continue communication in our special chat. We'll have a very brief break, just several minutes break, and after that we will invite our next speaker. Thank you, Anastasia.